official moves made, but have you been given an indication of how many players you might lose? And
I haven't. I mean, I think it comes down to what kind of a training camp they want to have. Whether it's 30 guys get two teams and do some scrimmaging, or you're just going to have a control scrimmage with 24 guys, or I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I'm sure there's lots of different options that they've drawn up over the past couple of months here. Nothing gets done though, until this whole thing gets agreed upon and signed, and then the transactions are going to happen. So I would guesstimate that it probably happened later today or tomorrow, and I'm sure they got to get some player movement to get some people in place to get started with the camp.
A lot of teams have that played Sunday pulled guys from their lineup who are going to be training camp hopefuls.
Yeah.
Suppose this doesn't get done until Saturday. What are the odds that Schenn and Couturier play Friday night in Binghamton?
What are the odds?
Yeah.
How do I?
Yeah.
What do I do to guesstimate that or estimate that? I don't know. The Board of Governors are to meet tomorrow and I think review the CBA that's been drawn up, and from there there's ratification and signing on the dotted line to put it in play, and I think that's when everything will start to play out. I can't imagine that they're going to leave it until the weekend before a decision is made. There's too much valuable time that would be wasted to get ready for the teams to start to get their systems and get their team play in order.
Sure. Certainly there are a lot of guys here who have played well enough over the first portion of the season to at least deserve an invitation to Philadelphia's camp. But as you're saying before, it's probably going to come down to whatever Laviolette and Holmgren want to do out there.
I went through this in '94 with the Flyers, and you want to get your team ready to go. So I think, I can't remember the exact number, but you get to a small number, you get your team in place, and basically you start getting through the repetitions and the work and your team building attitude, and you start to play some control scrimmages, and you get your team ready to play. So I'm sure there's a lot of different philosophies on this as to the number of players that they want to have for around the league in different situations, but I'm not in the guessing mood here today, so I'll find out whenever I talk to the Flyers. They'll give me a call and say these are the guys we want up here, and we'll get it going.
Back at your training camp, you mentioned once you guys got up here, it was kind of got a little bit more focused. You guys had less guys, all of that. So do you think that's comparable to what you might want to do at this point with if you were an NHL coach, to get to that fewer concentrated for a smaller training
Well,
camp?
they don't have any option on that, really. I mean, you're not looking at a normal training camp of 60 guys. You got to get to a workable group. I don't think you're going to go with two different groups either. There's not enough time for that. You got to get that one ice time, get it going, and get the repetitions in, so you get your team ready. You can work a practice very comfortably with 28 players, or you can also very comfortably go to 24 players. That's a big difference in just 4 guys. So it just comes down to the feel and the philosophy that the team's going to have.
When you're talking ECHL call-ups, you just mentioned before that it will probably be one sweeping move. The guys will go to Philadelphia, and then shortly thereafter, the guys will get called up from the ECHL. So there's still no movement on that. You haven't called anyone up for Trenton or anything like that just yet?
No. There are no transactions now. You're getting into money here now too. You start calling players and putting them in different teams. There's a lot of money involved in this whole thing. So I don't think any owner in the league wants to start paying anyone that $20,000 a day to sit in a hotel and wait for something to happen. Same here. We don't want to get players in place and wait and see what's going to happen. There has to be, in my mind, a decision that will be made by Paul Holmgren, and everything will take place pretty in conjunction with what that decision is going to be.
I was going to ask you about coaching in the NHL. The last time there was a shortened season like this, it seems like when there's a 48 or 50 game schedule, whatever they wind up doing, that each game becomes more important. You have a 5-game losing streak or something like that, and very quickly your playoff chances are slim. That's a tenth of the season now if you lose 5 games in a row.
It's always important to hit the ground running. There's no question that as coaches in the NHL, you're always talking about post-Christmas time being a critical time of the season where you really have to be playing well and put points on the board. But I think with the new NHL that we have today after the 2004 lockout, and you got 16 teams out of the 30 making the playoffs, that first game in October is as important as what it is in January or late December. And here we are right now. This is now that time. So you got to make sure again you get your camp, you get your players together, as much time as possible spent together through team building skills. Probably having lunch at the arena and just spending quality time to review a lot of things on video, just to keep the group together and get a feel for each other again. And then you get on the ice the next morning and do it all over again. So there's going to be a lot of intensity. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on everybody right from the very beginning of the first day of the training camp, and it'll just mount as the season starts. You just never want to get into any 4, 5, 6 games without putting points on the board, and it's even more critical now. You just obviously don't have as much time to get back into the race, and everything's going to be a division game, conference game rather, so it'll be even harder when you get into those kinds of situations.
What do you tell guys like Wellwood and Ronaldo who, we're here, we're preparing for games on Friday and Saturday, and they might still be with us, or maybe they'll be called up by then and they'll be getting ready for training camp? Do you just say, hey, you need to focus here and be ready for anything also? Have you talked with them?
Not individually. We had a meeting here this morning with our group, the whole team, and I basically saying the same thing that we're talking about here. I haven't got any word from anybody as to the number of players that will be going to Philadelphia. I think we comfortably know that Couturier and Shen will be 2 of the players, but other than that, I don't know that. So I did talk about this weekend for us, that we have practice time that's important right now. We got to have focus and concentration. We got to execute, and we have our own team, the Phantoms, that we are getting ready to play 3 games on the weekend. So there was nothing more complicated than that we're here right now, guys. Until we hear anything different, let's get ourselves out here today and get the quality work in.